So let's start. First, we will start with different brushes we can get for watercolors. So like this is a flat brush. Yeah, you can see it in this closer one. So you can use probably a larger flat brush for washes, like covering a larger area at once. So these are really helpful for that. And a circular round brush is good for details and filling up small areas. So that's the basic difference between the main two brushes we get. Then it comes to the different types of hair. So we have synthetic brushes, which are of basically synthetic plastic hairs, these ones. So these are Camlin brushes, synthetic series. So this is good for starting out. These are cheap and they will last quite a while. The only drawback which comes with this is mainly with watercolors is that you may find some lines in your work because the bristles are kind of hard compared to natural hair. So that will be affected and they will like hold less color and water at once. So you may need to like get color again and again in your brush to complete a single wash. So this is synthetic. These were synthetic brushes. Then we have sable hair brushes. These are the like best like recommended ones for watercolors. These are like from a tail of an animal. I think it's called sable itself. So these last very long time. I've had these since like 5 years since I started the same set, and these like carry a ton of water at once. So you don't need to like fill the brush again and again. And these are super soft bristles, so you won't see any streaking in your paintings too. Yeah.
Uh, Liam, I was not able to hear what brand and what kinds. I could you just repeat the brand as well?
Okay, the ones I showed, the synthetic ones, these are from Camlin.
Mm-hmm.
And these ones, the sable hair brushes, this one's from a company called Manuscript. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
very sure if they like still are making these brushes. I got them like a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And these ones are from Winsor and Newton. And sable brushes you can expect to be like very expensive. So these are like natural hair brushes, calligraphy brushes. I don't know what hair these are, but I got them when I was just starting out, and they help for like larger washes. But I don't use them anymore because the hairs like kind of just come out like this, and then they're all over the painting. So I don't use them now. But these are also you can get these too. These are I think this one's synthetic hair, but you get these in natural hair too. And this is like the best one for carrying water, but you don't get them in like very small sizes, so you can't use them for details. These are just round brushes for covering larger surface area and store a lot of paint at once. These are like soft bristles too, so good for watercolors. You won't see the streaking. And then I have these large ones. These are synthetic brushes, and I use them like for my larger paintings to cover a big wash at once or to wet the whole paper at once. I use them. And the final thing is these are specialty brushes. So each of them like gives you different like effect, different kind of strokes and stuff. So this is a dagger brush. This is like long at one point and flat brush and short at the other. So this is good for sharp lines too, and you can cover a large area with the same brush. Then this is a fan brush. This is used by artists for like creating different strokes in trees and in waves, water. I don't use these much. I use the normal brushes. This is a rigger. So it's a pointed brush with a wait, I'll bring white tape. So this is a pointed brush with a long hairs. So this helps to make very thin, sharp lines and is good for details too. So for starting out, like if you're just getting into watercolors, you may go for the synthetic hair itself. Camlin creates some good ones. And then you can probably upgrade to a mix hair. We get that too from Escoda. I have one here. I don't use these much. This is a very small one. So this is like a blend of natural hair and synthetic hair. And then recently, Vincent Newton has started making brushes like synthetic brushes, which mimics the natural hair really good. So they are like very similar to sable brushes, but are synthetic and are cheaper. So those are also good if you're looking to upgrade from synthetic. And then for final, like the best brushes you can get is sable or mop brushes, these ones. So any of these are like the top tier one. So once you have got the hang of watercolors and you want to like get better at it or like upgrade your materials, then you can look for that. So next up, I've got papers. So this first one is Arch cold pressed paper. So this is the one I use the most. Firstly, let me like tell you the difference between, we basically get three types of watercolor papers. So one is hot pressed, then it is cold pressed and rough. So the difference is like a hot press paper is very smooth and it doesn't have much of texture to it, while cold pressed has a little bit more texture, and rough is like more texture than cold press. So rough is the most rough, as the name suggests. Then comes cold press in middle, and hot press is the smoothest one. So hot press is good for like very small details like botanical work and all. Then the most widely used is cold pressed, and this is the one I use most of the time because it's like lies in the between of two. And then rough can be used for getting specific results, like if you want some like a wall texture, some rough texture in the painting. So rough one works good. I can show you like a difference in what a brush stroke would look like on all three of them. So I'm using a flat brush here. Uh, um, just a simple stroke on what it would look like on a hot press paper. So the paper is very smooth and you won't see much of a texture here. A very slight texture to be seen. This is hot press. It goes through hot rollers in the process. So the hot rollers like smoothens them out. That's why it's called hot pressed. So it's a very minimal texture. And then if you try the same thing with cold pressed, you can see that it gets like a more drier and more rough kind of a texture compared to hot pressed. So this one's more rough than hot pressed. And then we have the last one, the rough one, as the name is rough one. And it has the most texture compared to any of those two. This one's cold pressed, the rough, and hot pressed. So that's the difference in texture you may get. And then different second way of differentiating them is on thickness. So you can get a 100 GSM paper, 200 GSM, 300 GSM. It goes up till like 650 GSM too. So the GSM will affect the thickness of the paper. And if you are doing like larger paintings, bigger than like A3 or something, you should at least go for 300 GSM. 300 GSM is what is like most preferred for watercolors, because watercolors you tend to use a lot of water and the paper buckles. So the thicker the paper, the less it will buckle and it will help you maintain a flatter wash. So these are some of my favorite papers I use. This one I use the most. This is Arch Cold Press 300 GSM. Then we have Arch Rough. So it has a like an almost leather-like finish to it. So that's Arch Rough 300 GSM. And this one's Vincent Newton's cold pressed, but they say it's cold pressed, but it looks a lot rough. I don't know what's going on with this one, but it's called cold press. So this one also I use a lot. And then we have this Indian brand, Chitrapat. So it's kind of a cold press or rough kind of a texture it has. And the one I have is in 270 GSM. I wasn't able to find the 300 one on all the stores. So I use this one too for most of my rough paintings or for thumbnail sketches. This one's a good paper for beginners and it's comparatively very cheap, but has kind of a good quality to it. And it's also 100% cotton. The paper is made up of cotton and not wood. So all these papers are made up of cotton. So it helps to keep the colors fresh and the paper is even on all the sides. Like you won't see some dark patches or stuff which you might see from like cellulose or wood pulp papers. These are 100% cotton. 300 GSM is what is recommended. And we have, like, just to summarize, we have these three textures to it: hot press, cold press, and rough. Hot press the smoothest, cold press lies in between, and rough is the most rough out of them all. And then we have thickness, which is measured in GSM, and 300 is the one to go for. And then we have the material, which is, we need cotton. 100% cotton is the best. Then even for beginners, you can even try Brustro paper. I started with Brustro itself. So I got Brustro cold pressed, and it worked just good for me while I was starting. Here's the one. This one's hot pressed, but I started with cold pressed. And then recently Canson has also got this Heritage series. So this one's like very similar to Arch. It's a bit cheaper than Arch, so you can even try this one. And like a good pick for intermediate artists is this Canson Molyneux. I talked about this before too. I don't think these are manufactured anymore. Like, these are not available anywhere. I've looked for them. But this one's a rough, and it has like a very unique texture to it. You can see here. It has almost like a wall kind of a texture to it. So this one's helpful for getting like a rough effect in your painting. I don't think that this is available anymore, but it was a good paper. So best for beginners is Brustro and Chitrapat. Then you can upgrade to like Kenson, or the best one, Arch. Arch is used by like almost all professionals. It's a good, reliable paper. It stays consistent among different beds and all, and it is available in different sizes too. So, like for my larger paintings, I have the same Arch paper in 16:20 size, and then I have the same one in 10:14. So I have the same Arch paper in different dimensions, but that's the one I use the most. So if you have got any question regarding paper, any doubts, you can ask me.
Liam, a quick question. This is Nilanjana. In a cold press paper as well, we get, I'm not sure if we get that in all of these different types, that the two faces are a little different. I mean, we get one face which is a little smoother, one face which is a little rough.
Yeah.
Right. So do you choose it according to the work that you are going to do, or is there a preferred side that usually you go with?
No, this goes for all the three kind of paper. We get a rougher side in all three and a smoother one. So you should always go for the rough, because the rougher is
side, right? Yeah.
What was on the top of the roller when the paper was like flattened. And the second side, it might show you at the end of the painting, or once the colors dried, you may see some spots, or probably some spots will be lighter or darker. So that's the variation on the back side. So you should always go for the rougher.
For the rougher side. Yeah. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Any other questions anyone got?
Anyone has anything to ask so far regarding to the brushes, the papers?
GSM stand for?
Sorry, can you
What
come
does
again?
GSM stand for?
GSM is, I think it's grams per square meter. So what's the weight of the paper if it's like 1 by 1 square? So 300 GSM paper's weight will be 300 grams if the paper size is 1 by 1 meter. And it is also measured in LB. I don't know what LB stands for. So 300 GSM is 140 LB. So that's also like a way of measuring it.
Okay, thank you.
GSM is basically grams per square meter.
Yeah.
All right. So,
hello, Liam. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Which paper do you recommend for beginners?
Go for cold pressed.
Cold pressed.
At your country, probably Brustro will be available, or you can go for Kenson and Arch. These are available all over the world, and even Winsor Newton creates some good paper. So cold pressed 300 GSM is the one to go for.
Thank you.
So colors, the first option you'll get is choosing between like these cakes or pens, and choosing between these and tubes basically. So the difference, you might not see much of a difference in the result, but the way you use them is very different. So for smaller paintings, cakes are good because you can like re-wet them, let them like let water sit for a while, and you can use the paint. But these are like in small quantities, so you might not use them for like a very large painting. So that's when tubes are much more helpful. You can like dilute a larger amount of paint and get a larger amount of paint at once. That's the one way of differentiating colors. And the second is artist quality and students quality. So the difference between like these are Camlin tubes. So they say it's artist quality, but when you compare them to like other ones, like the Daniel Smith or Vincent Newton, so they are kind of like not as good as the quality. So these are like can be considered students quality too. So the difference you will see between like expensive ones or the good ones and these ones is these will be less pigmented. So you would need to use more color to get the same vibrancy or same opacity as the transparent one. The thing with these is they will be more opaque, but they won't be as saturated or as vibrant. So you might need to use more paint or go over with a second layer. So we have like I use tubes from Camlin a lot. Then I have Daniel Smith, Sennelier, and these are Sennelier tubes, and Vincent Newton. I'll mention them all in the group too if you need. So my top picks would be these three brands: Daniel Smith, I'll show them here, Vincent Newton, and Sennelier. So Sennelier is the cheapest one of these three and is a really good brand. They have a ton of shades too, and they create some like these colors are really pigmented and great for starting out. Then these two are very similar in price and in nature, so you can get any of these brand regardless. Some shades might be cheaper in Daniel Smith, some might be cheaper in Vincent Newton. So the only difference between students and professional is the vibrancy and the amount of paint you would need to get the same result. In students, you will need more paint to get the same result, and in artist quality, you will need less paint to get the same result and vibrancy. So what I do is I use this palette from Camlin, and the colors which are in this are filled with different tubes. So not all colors are Camlin. I just fill them with the colors I want. So I have this red from Daniel Smith, some greens from Vincent Newton. So all of these are from different companies, depending on the colors I like. Some other colors I've got here, like kind of not so common ones. This is a opera pink. So I use this a lot for my lotus paintings. And this is, I think it's called cobalt green. So this is like a light bluish green kind of color. So these two I have differently here. I don't use these like in all of my paintings. I use pink a lot in lotus paintings. So I have them on the side. And like the other colors I use a lot is this purple. So I've already mixed it. This is crimson red and blue, cerulean blue. So I've got them pre-mixed. So whenever I need, I can use directly these. And then this is cerulean blue and some ultramarine. So it gives like a nice neutral blue, which is not like tinted towards green, nor towards more side of red or purple. So it's like a neutral blue. So I have got these two mixed, and I use this palette most of the time, unless I need like a huge, large wash for
Liam?
like a larger painting. Right? Yeah.
Whatever you were showing, it actually is not visible on the camera. I guess it is out of the frame. So
I was showing it to the second one. I'll do it for this one too, no problem.
okay,
So,
okay.
like I was showing that this
Okay, in
color
the
I have.
other view. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I will show it again if you need, no problem. So I have this one pre-mixed. This is purple. I've got this is a mix of crimson red and cerulean blue. So I use purple a lot in my paintings, and you might not get purple in like cakes and tubes itself. So you need to mix them. And then I have this blue. It's a neutral blue, a mix of cerulean and crimson. So this neutral blue is not like bent towards the green side or not towards the red side. So these two colors I use a lot, and these are not available in tubes nor in cakes. So I've already kept them mixed. So for starting out, you should go for the cakes itself, because starting with smaller paintings is always a better idea to get the hang of watercolors at once. So start with the cakes, and then you can upgrade to normal like student grade tubes, or then you can go to Sennelier and all. So these are like Sennelier is a great brand at a comparatively lower price. So these are my top picks for colors. So if you got any question regarding the color in sense of materials, then you may ask.
Anyone?
Yeah, can you please tell us about the various mediums that we get to hear? Like sometimes you watch a YouTube video and they say that
Yeah,
add a drop of this,
yeah,
and
that
when
was
they
my next topic.
demonstrate,
Yeah.
the color just goes whoosh, just spreads automatically. So what is that?
Yeah, that's, I think it's some ox gall. It said I don't use that. I use these two mediums. So one's masking fluid, it's a common one, and then the other one I use is gum arabic. So what it does is, for masking fluid, it helps you to wait. I'll demonstrate it. So what masking fluid's gonna do is, it will help you to keep a specific part of the paper white while you're applying colors to the other area. So you can simply use a brush or a stick, preferably to not damage your brush, because this will dry on the brush and it will damage it. So a masking fluid, you can simply apply it on a part and let it dry, and then simply paint over it. And once the paint is dried, you can remove the masking fluid and the surface will still be white. So you can, like, without worrying about keeping the border safe or the part white, you can simply paint with the freedom. And then once everything's dried, you can remove the masking fluid. So that's one medium. I'll let it dry and then I'll demonstrate.
So when it dries, does it come off like a membrane? We can just peel it off.
Yeah, we can peel it off.
Okay.
I'll show you, just let it dry.
All
And
right,
I'll
sure.
paint around it. I'll do it. And then the second medium, which I'll keep it on the side while it dries. The second medium I rarely use. I don't use it much. I don't like to complicate my whole process of painting. I like to keep it as simple as possible. So what gum arabic does is, it thickens the color without actually increasing the opacity of it. So if you, like in watercolors, if you want like a very light blue, so you will add water to blue, and you will not add white. You will add water and it will dilute the blue color. So when you will apply it, it will be a transparent patch of color, and the white of the paper will show through, which will make it look like a lighter blue. So wait, I'll show you. So what it does is, like, I have this blue here, but if I want like a lighter shade of it, first let me show you this color in the purest form. So here's this blue which I have. Now if I want to like get a lighter tint of it, so I'll add more water to it. So here I've added a bit more water, and if I want to go even lighter, I will add more water to it. And the more and more water you add, the lighter the color will get. But with this, the result is, the more and more water you add, it like reduces the thickness of the paint. So this will be the thickest paint, then it will thin down, it will thin down, and it will thin down as you add more and more water. But when you're using like, if you are like, your surface is wet and you apply color, so I'll show you that too. So if I have like this wet surface here, and I apply thick color here, so you can see how little it spreads. Wait, I'll zoom it in. So you can see how little it spreads. I'll re-wet the surface, must have been dry. So again, I'm doing it with the thick color. So it spreads like kind of in a limit, you can see. But if I like want lighter color, so I'll add more water to it, but then it will spread even more. So I can't control the thickness, like how much it spreads when I want lighter color. So what gum arabic does is, it will increase the thickness of the color without actually making it darker. So this is like a transparent thick medium, which you can add to any color. So it will make it more thicker without actually increasing the opacity or the darkness of the pigment. So if I want a color as dark as this one, and I want it to spread as little as this one, so that's when I can use gum arabic to do that. So like I can make a light blue color here with ton of water. So okay, we were on like the practical demonstration of gum arabic. So I've created a lighter blue here, which is very little blue with a lot of water. So this is a very thin paint and like simply flows on the palette, you can see. But what if I want this to be thicker? So you can see how it simply flows on the palette. But I want the color to be the same shade. I want this to be this light, but I want it to be a bit more thicker. So I can control it easier on when I like paint with it. So what I can do is I can add like a couple drops of gum arabic to it. So this should not like change the opacity or the darkness of the paint, and just simply make it thicker. So you have the like the same light blue, but now you can see it doesn't flow that easily. So that's what gum arabic does. So this will help you in wet and wet techniques. So this will help you to like prevent the flow of it and control the colors more.
Sorry, is this Arabic gum?
This is gum arabic. This is the same thing which is used in paints to like hold the pigment together. It's the binder in paints. This one's from Vincent Newton.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I can show you the difference which it makes. So I'll like first wet the paper again. So now once I've like wetted the surface, I will do the same thing which I did before. So I'll first do it with the color without gum arabic. So this is the like same color. Surface is right. Just a minute. This is the same color without gum arabic to it. You can see how much it flows, and I can't actually control it on the paper. But if I want to keep it this light only and I want to control it more, that's when I can use gum arabic. So now you can see that the color is the same. It's the same light blue, but it is flowing far less. So I can control it more. I can give it a direction and the shape where I want it to go. So that's what you can do with gum arabic. So it's flowing less, and this one has like flown till the end, you can see. So that's where gum arabic helps. And if we talk about the masking fluid one, I'm not sure if it has completely dried. I will use a dryer. Okay, so now let me paint around this. So I've like applied it in a circular manner here. So I can simply paint around this like that. And I don't have to like worry about being careful around the edges. I can simply just paint around it. While if I was to do the same thing without the masking fluid, I would have needed to first like draw a circle, then be careful about not touching it while I paint the rest of the part. So this is like for a singular color, which I'm using here, just blue. This can be done, but when you have to use like multiple colors, this will be much more tricky, and you will like get those dead lines where the paint dries in between. So like if I want to add some purple, so now at this point I would need to go halfway here and then halfway there, which won't get me like as smooth as a gradient. While here I can simply continue going towards like upwards, downwards without worrying about the circle. And once like this wash has dried, we can remove the masking fluid.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does using a blow dryer to dry the paints help things become more even spread?
No, you don't want that to happen. See, if the paint is too wet, that the blow from the blow dryer will make it spread. Don't use the blow dryer until the paint is settled, because you don't know what it will do. It will like work in your favor or against you in the painting. So you want the like paint to be settled before. I was just doing it for the demonstration. That's why I did it right away. Otherwise, I would have waited for like 5 minutes until the paint has settled a bit. And that's when I would have used the blow dryer. So it only dries the paint and don't spread it. So now once the paint has dried, I can simply like peel this masking fluid off like that. And I have a clean circle here. So that's what masking fluid is used for. So if you have any doubt regarding masking fluid or gum arabic, please let me know.
Yeah, I do actually. Whenever I use masking fluid on 100% cotton paper, what I'm seeing is that it rips the paper. Is there any way we can stop that from happening?
What is happening to the paper?
It gets torn.
Yeah. This happens with my Chitrapat paper too. So what I try to do is first, like before you start drawing or painting, just give it a wash of water. Just apply water on the paper and let it dry, so that the top layer is kind of already settled. And then you can start with the drawing and masking fluid. So, and this will also happen if the absorbences paper is very low. If the paper is like, which paper are you talking about?
I'm talking about Canson
Montwall series.
Canson mixed media.
So
300.
that's not, that's, yeah, that might show these things. That's not a watercolor specific paper, right? So the sizing means like the absorbency of the paper, how well the paper absorbs the color. It depends on that too. So if the absorbency is good, so the paper won't tear. And if like the color actually sits on the surface and don't actually seep into the paper, the masking fluid will like take that top layer, top surface of the paper off. So when I like use Chitrapat paper, so it's not as absorbent as Arch or Canson watercolor dedicated paper. So that tears off. So what I do is I apply water first on the paper without before even drawing, so that like minimizes the tear a bit. It will not go off 100%. It will tear then too, but it will reduce it a bit. So you should try probably investing in Kenson Montfall series. That's a good one for masking, like using masking fluid. Or Kenson Heritage or Molendura series is also good.
I also have a question related to masking fluid. How to safeguard the brushes, as in when we use the masking fluid? That's one. Secondly, I've seen a lot of people use masking fluids for very to make a very thin line, or safeguard the white details from a picture, let's say landscape. So how do they achieve those fine lines of this masking fluid?
Are you talking about like if you have any particular artist in mind you are talking about?
Not particular artists, in general.
Okay.
Also safeguarding a white space which is very fine and thin.
So firstly, let's talk about safeguarding your brushes. So what I use is, before I like dip it in masking fluid, I coat it with a layer of oil or hair serum or anything which is like I'm not getting the word, but anything which like not let water seep in. So oil works or hair serum works. I use hair serum I've got. So what it does is it create a layer on the brush, a protective layer, which doesn't allow masking fluid to directly get into the brush. So once you're done with it, you can simply just wipe it off using your hand, and the whole masking fluid layer will come off, and you will have your brush kind of safe. But I don't recommend doing this with natural hair. Use synthetic brushes for this, because they are good with like handling much of like masking fluid and more of chemicals. Natural hair may like dither when you do all the use these chemicals and stuff. So use synthetic hair brushes and use serum or an oil on the surface before dipping it in masking fluid. And if you're using like masking fluid for a longer time, if you're masking like a larger area or intricate details, and you would need to like do it for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, then wash the brush every 5 or 10 minutes before the masking fluid actually dries on the brush. So washing it consistently between sessions and again layering it with serum or oil helps. That's what I do. And always use synthetic brushes. And now when it comes to like intricate details you were talking about, using a very thin brush helps. That's what I do. And what I've seen other artists use is bamboo sticks. Then they also use any wooden sticks which is pointed. So you can use that too. And then there are specific tools which comes for masking fluid. So there's like, I've seen this artist Thierry Duvel. He's a French artist. So what he has is, I'm not sure if it's like a very common tool. I've only seen it with him. So it's like so it has like a gap at the end, very thin gap, and you can simply like fill it in with masking fluid, and then it will like, it works like a pen, and it will let the masking fluid flow at a very slow rate, and you can simply like draw it like a pen with that. So that helps for like smaller details. But what I do is use a very small brush, like a pointed one, and it works just as well.
Liam, is there a particular name for that pen?
I would need to look it up. I will share it with you if I find.
Okay, dear.
Yeah. So if you have any question regarding any materials right now, because we are done with materials here, you can like ask me.
Which brand to use for masking fluid?
Masking fluid, I've tried 2 brands. I've tried one from this one, Delarowney one, and the other one is Winsor Newton. So the difference I've noticed is Winsor Newton's kind of cheaper than Delarowney in this one, and it is more thin than Delarowney. So it depends on what is your aim. So if you want like small details, or if you just want to preserve the white, then Winsor Newton works. It is thinned one, so it is like thinner than Delarowney. So you can use this one for finer details. And if you want to like cover, you have already painted it and you want to cover a specific part which is over paint, which for example, you've already painted the whole paper blue, and now you want to prevent that blue from getting some other color. So if you're like applying masking fluid over already painted surface, then using a thicker one will help, because it will like reactivate the base paint less than what a more thin one will do. So when I need to like do like mask color over already painted surface, I use Delarowney one. And for most of the cases, I have to preserve the whites, so I use the Winsor Newton one. These are the only 2 I've tried. I've also heard about Sennelier. Sennelier's masking fluid is also good. A lot of people use that. I've only tried these 2.